меня зовут Дмитрий.
И мне 16 лет.
Я с Казахстана, город Нур-Султан.
And I'm from Cyprus.
Меня зовут Денис, я живу в Украине.
Город Ивано-Франковск.
My name is Ibrahim in real life. I'm from Oman.
Меня зовут Андрей, живу в Беларуси, город Минск.
Siema, jestem Mikołaj, mam 18 lat, jestem z Polski.
Меня зовут Андрей.
Я из города Пскова, мне 17 лет.
Я представляю Российскую Федерацию.
Здравствуй, я сам Матя, из Сърбия.
Benim adım Berkan, ben 17 yaşındayım, İstanbul'da yaşıyorum.
I'm Lucas, I'm 20 years old and I'm from Portugal.
Участие в турнире – это шанс показать себя.
Турнир помогает мне испытать свои силы, а во-вторых, попробовать что-то новое.
It's life-changing opportunities that we are very lucky to have, like Gamestars and other kind of organizations to make those kinds of tournaments.
Такие турниры — это значит шанс заработать какие-то деньги, шанс как-то зарекомендовать себя и шанс просто потренироваться для себя.
Yeah, my goal is to show everybody who I am and that my country and me myself is capable of winning something big.
Я попробую показать хорошую игру и то, что в Казахстане хорошо играют.
Türkiye'den katılan oyunculara başarılar dilerim. Türkiye'den katılan diğer oyunculara da başarılar dilerim. Umarım onlar da istedikleri hedefleri gerçekleştirirler.
Я думаю, Россия покажет себя очень круто на этом турнире, и мы займем первые 4 места на этом турнире.
So hopefully I can win this tournament and represent Portugal.
Я попытаюсь представить нашу страну должным uровнем w игре Clash Royale.
Pozdrawiam całą scenę polską Clash Royale, wszystkich graczy oraz Poppa. Mam nadzieję, że będzie oglądał i trzymał kciuki.
Так, зрителям хочется очень сказать, чтобы поддерживали нас, болели, ведь это для нас очень важно, и это непередаваемые эмоции, и просто очень хочется, чтобы вы были с нами.
Hey everybody, hello and welcome to the Gamestars inaugural season Clash Royale edition. And you heard it right there from all the players themselves. They want the money, they want the chance to train, and mostly they want to represent and bring honor to their country. Hello everybody, I am Andrew Guy. Joining me today is our former world champion head coach of Team Liquid, Eric Benemu. Eric, how you doing today, brother?
I'm doing great, and I'm super excited to be casting this with you. We only get a weekend per month to cast the CRL, so this is a whole different format. This is a whole different set of players, and I couldn't be more excited.
I know, man. I'm excited. We get to get some reps in between CRL, and this is a lot of high-level competition, but it is a very, very different tournament than what we have over at CRL. Remember, guys, this is Gamestars, where players from all over the world, some of the best in the world in Clash Royale, are going to be battling it out for $30,000. And how is it a little bit different? Well, let me tell you, Eric, we're doing BO5, something that I know you're very, very familiar with and something that a lot of pros out there miss. This is going to be a standard format. So no duels, no bans, no late bans, none of that. Just straight up Clash Royale, 32 players from around the world, broken down into 8 separate groups. Those groups will be giving you 4 matches a day. That's right. Just like what Eric said, we'll be here 5 days a week with 4 matches a day to figure out who is going to be working. I know. You're going to be real sick of me by the end of this, man. To figure out who's going to be making it. Yeah, me too, man. And they're all working towards those group finals that we'll be doing in May. Eric, there's a lot of names here on this screen, 32 of them, some that we know and some that we do not.
Yeah, absolutely. There's, like you said, a lot of players we don't know, but I'm going to be able to talk about the players that I do know, that you know, and maybe some of you at home know. And like you said, with this best of 5, we're going to be able to see a lot of that talent and a lot of those, not duels format. We get to see them play all their comfort decks. So, for example, we have Igor, right? If you're a fan of ladder, yeah, you know him. He's won, I think, 6 times. If you're a fan of competitive, he's a world champion. And on the other side, we also have young players that we've known for a long time, right? We have those players like Mateja, like Lucas, who has played in the Spanish league. Mateja's only 16, but he's definitely making a name for himself this year, starting with the Brenchan Cup. And then from Kazakhstan, we have Dimas, who's already placed top 32 in 2 different CRL brackets. And I mean, I'm super excited. We also have the last player I really want to touch on here is Predator. Predator is someone who was part of the Belarus team that we expected in the no-till worlds to have Lapokati as the star player, right? No, it ended up being Predator. So this is going to be exciting.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things that's really exciting about tournaments like this is, yes, there are a lot of really big names out there, but there's a lot of players that really want to prove themselves, some that are just turning 16 that have finally become eligible to play here in competitive play. So yes, those are a lot of great players from all over the world, from all over this tournament, but today it's all about Group A. Group A is going to be the squad that we're going to be focusing on. And as you guys can see here, as we kind of talk through Group A and the tournament format, these are just some highlights of the qualifiers to get players here today. Obviously, countries from all over the world were getting ready to qualify for this tournament, getting down to only 32 players. Speaking of 32 players, here are the 4 that are going to be competing today in Group A. As you guys can see, Eric, talk me through these guys.
Yeah, so we have 2 of the players I touched on a little bit, Lucas and Mateja, and they're going against 2 players that we don't know that much, right? We have Blas on one side and Al Shihi on the other. So this is a moment where the young players, the rookies, the players that we haven't seen much can actually make a name for themselves, because they're going to be playing against players that are in CRL, against, for example, us that we cast CRL and a lot of this audience as well. So it's a good time to make a name for yourself.
Yeah, and the way it works out is we're going to have 4 matches. The winner, we're going to have, obviously Group A, 2 people are going to play each other. The other 2 people are going to play each other. The winners of those matches will play to find out who is in first place, and the losers of those 2 matches will find out who is going to be eliminated at the end of the day. But before we get into winners, before we get into losers, let's figure out who is actually going to be competing in Group A with these great players.
Zdravo, ja sam Mateja, dolazim iz Srbije, igricu igram ukupno 5 godina, dnevno treniram od 2 do 3 sata, zavisi kada imam neko takmičenje I nadam se da ću daleko stići u Gamestars takmičenjima.
I'm Lucas, I'm 20 years old, and I'm from Portugal. I started playing Clash Royale like 4 or 5 years ago, right in the beginning, in classes. First of all, I think my group is the hardest from all the groups, so I think I got kind of unlucky. My favorite card is probably Lava Hound, I think, because it's so easy to play. Like for these big tournaments, like I tend to practice more, but still max 2-3 hours maybe. So hopefully I can win this tournament and represent Portugal.
My name is Ibrahim in real life, but I'm known as Ayel Shihi in game. I'm from Oman. I've been playing for 5 years. My favorite card is Graveyard because it's 2 strong. Before this tournament, I used to play 1 hour a day, but then when it started, I started practicing about 700 games a week, and each game being average 4 minutes. It's too much time. My goal is to be top 1 the whole tournament, and of course having fun at the same time.
Salut, moi c'est Mathieu, j'ai 17 ans. Ça fait 4 ans que je joue à Clash Royale et j'habite en France. Donc ma carte préférée c'est le bolos, je la joue depuis le début du jeu. Pour essayer de performer dans cette compétition, je m'entraîne tous les jours. Mon objectif, faire le meilleur résultat et aller plus loin. Et pour finir, dans cette compétition, j'ai rien à perdre, tout à gagner.
So closing out our video, there was Blaze, who's going to be starting off our tournament today. And before we get into the action, Eric, there is one thing that you and I need to discuss. It's been a while since we got to cast a match together, about a month. And in that month, a lot of things have changed with our balance updates. Tons of cards have been nerfed, buffed, or just reworked. And you had the honor, I should say, of casting the qualifiers this last weekend. What was something that you really noticed in looking at the new meta, brother?
Yeah, I mean, anyone that's been playing or been watching cannot not see the E-barbs in every deck, right? And 2 of the players that we just saw in that video said their favorite deck is Lava Hound. So if your favorite deck is Lava Hound, that's not what you want to hear when you get all those E-barbs buffs, the bomber, and all the really ground troops got, I think, a little bit of a boost here, right? I saw a lot of RG with barbs. We saw the E-Giant with barbs. the elite barbarians, of course, and that's not good when you're playing lava. So I'm gonna have to see how they adapt, seeing as those are the favorite cards of two of the players, and I think both of the players are the ones facing off in the first round.
Yeah, so Eric, when you see a change like that, when you see one specific card just working into every archetype, it's like, it doesn't matter. We can fit it into lava, we can fit it into mortar, we can fit it into bait. Do you think that that card is too strong, or do you think it's because it's available to everyone out there? They can put it in every deck. It's so versatile that it is just like, all right, we just need to kind of catch up with the times and get on the E-Barb train.
I think it's more of the fact that we're not used to seeing it, and that's why it seems so strong. When you're not used to seeing a card ever, and then it's in every deck, you're like, oh, this is overpowered, this is broken, but it's really not. It's just we're not used to it.
All right, here we go, guys. Game 1 of the Gamestars Group Stage International Tournament. $30,000 on the line. Lucas, bottom of your screen. Blaze at the top. Blazer, I like that. And we'll see, man. I'd be shocked if we don't see E-Barbs here in this very first BO5, maybe even game number 1.
Yeah, and we could even be seeing a mirror match as this starts off as well. We're gonna see a lot of Witch, and not only this Witch, but the Mother Witch as well. It's back into the meta. Well, not even back into the meta. It's in the meta for the first time since it's released. And it's a card that when you're playing against Night Witch is actually very strong, because each one of those bats turns into one of those little huggies up on your tower. So I'm very excited. I want to see, both of these players said they like heavy decks in lava. So I expect to see not only Golem, maybe some E-Giant as well. And there's the Mother Witch for the first time.
This card is one of the most frustrating cards for me to play against in the game. I am a huge fan of all things that are bait, log bait, mortar bait, spell bait, with small squishy cards. This card ruins my day. And you see a nice predictive snowball come down there, but not getting a ton out of it on this Lumberjack.
Yeah, and like you said, if it ruins your day, imagine how it ruins my day that likes to play Lava Clone with Skarmy. So that's not looking great when all the Lava Clone pups and the Skarmy and everything goes into effect, and they have a Mother Witch. So my deck is basically sent to oblivion, but it's time to adapt. And I think that's what we're gonna have to see a lot in this competition. In the match that's coming up next, we saw one of the players say his favorite card is Graveyard because it's broken and it's so powerful. Not if they have Mother Witch. That's about 30 hoggies onto your tower.
Yeah, that is a crazy hard counter for Graveyard there. You see the Mega Knight do putting in some work here. Nice poison up high. Help clean up those bats. Those second set of bats sent in way too soon. They're going to get eaten alive by that poison. Then you see Blaze calling good game already as he sees this massive push coming across the bridge with the Graveyard on the back end.
Yeah, and he actually decided to go Night Witch in front to try and keep the Mega Knight alive. I'm not sure if that was the play, just because it ended up taking a lot of damage onto the Night Witch, and that Mega Knight was going to die either way. But I think this match is pretty much under control. It's just a matter of time. He just needs to keep the pressure up, and if that Huggy can stay alive, and it does, that's going to actually get like 3 hits. Because that's unfortunate.
Yeah, the leap from the Mega Knight there just absorbs, inhales all of that elixir of Blaze, and you see a handful of small little mistakes there from Blaze. That Skarmy wasn't great, letting that Hog sneak on through, and of course, those early bats on that last Golem push getting eaten alive by that poison, but it is Golem, and there is a very hard building to get through here with the Goblin Cage.
Yeah, that Goblin Cage, not only is it great for defending, it's high DPS and good for the counter. And there you see a clone. I'm not sure if that's the play when you have a Mother Witch on the field. And like you said earlier, that Skarmy gets eaten alive by the Mega Knight. And yes, it's a mistake, but overall, I think it actually ended up favoring him, because look what happened with 4 little bats. Imagine if that Skarmy lived, we were going to see a lot of hoggies on his tower. So either way, I think it's a lose-lose situation to play clone with this meta.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good point that you make there at the very end. It's really tough to play clone in this meta just because Mother Witch is so strong right now, and it becomes those things that late in the game, double elixir, triple elixir, when that Mother Witch is down and she's getting all that value, it is so hard to recover from that. Eric, do you think that the Mother Witch is relevant or prevalent enough to just have to take a step away from bait?
I think it's to the point where in the actual meta that it's starting now, because the way the metas work are, you have different phases, right? At the first couple of weeks when the meta change, everyone's trying out new things. They try to stick to the newer cards, and then it starts phasing into the middle stage where everyone's using what they used to know and trying to counter those specific early weeks. And at the end of the meta is where you actually get the best decks, the 5 best decks, and we see a lot of mirror match. In this point, I don't think bait and clone are viable, but I do think we'll see them come back into the meta as it goes on.
So here we go. Game number 2, as you can see on the left-hand side of your screen. This is going to be a best of 5 set. First game going to Lucas, and talking about bait, we got a lot of bait already on the board with that Skarmy plus the Princess and another Golem here from Blaze.
Yeah, Blaze basically wants to, you know, say I'm winning this with a Golem one way or another, but it's not looking great when you have an Inferno Tower on the other side this early on, and that's one of the risks you take when you play Golem in single elixir, right? You're not going to be able to build that push if you do have Lightning, or if you want to stack enough to where that Inferno Tower isn't going to eat up all your troops. And he's actually going back to the clone, which is very, very risky. I'm not sure that's the play. We just spoke about it in this meta, right? And even then, look, yeah, no Mother Witch, but you have Princess, you have Dark Goblin, you have so many different splash troops that I'm not sure.
Yeah, and you talk about, you know, that spell being used just from an offensive perspective, but let's look at it defensively. You know, this really, really leaves Blaze vulnerable to bait cards in general because he's only got one spell to deal with it. Just that one set of arrows. The clone is always going to be offensive unless he's, you know, cloning defensively, but it's just a rough place to be in when you talk about mitigating 100% of damage. He just isn't able to do it.
Absolutely. And also, if you're looking at all the cards that are actually in this bait deck from Lucas, all he has to do is bait out the arrows on an offensive Goblin Barrel, and then on a defense, yeah, you can use Inferno Tower, but you don't even need to use Inferno Tower to take care of the Golem because he has nothing for a Skarmy. You put that into that Golem, you tank the Baby Dragon with the Knight, and it's over. The Golem is gone for 3 elixir.
Yeah, and then right there you see he's very comfortable to drop all those cards right in Arrow's range because he knows now, all right, cool, you're going to use your arrows there, then I can just send in this onslaught of bait cards again. You can't defend it 100%. Those goblins are going to take the tower, and here we go. It should just be a pretty easy defense here over the next 45.
Yeah, I expect Inferno Tower, Knight, and a Skarmy, and that should be it. There's the Skarmy. As soon as the Baby Dragon comes down, you'll probably see a Knight or something along those lines, and even a defensive Skelly Bro that's going to explode and take care of all the bats. Yeah, this is just, it's one of those moments where you go, okay, man, I got to give it up. This is not the deck. This is not the metaphor. For example, I know he doesn't have this option. I just stopped playing ladder because I can't play clone. He doesn't have that option, but it's time to change.
Yeah, I agree, man. He's got to step away from the clone. It's not working out here in games number 1 and 2. Remember, this is a best of 5, so he still has some life left to breathe. But, you know, I think, as you just said, Eric, he steps away from the clone. Maybe he gives himself another spell because Lucas did a very, very good job of doing exactly what you said. Bait out the arrows and then really use that Skarmy to put a hurting on your opponent.
Yeah, and you're right on that. And another thing is, this is one of those times where I think, hey, I wish this was a duels format just for him so that he can't use this deck anymore, man. Come on, let's go a little bit more meta. This is a very NATO heavy meta as well, right? You have the E-Giant deck that I spoke about that has Tornado, Baby Dragon, Ice Wizard, Dark Prince. So if you use Clone again, that's not going to work out that well. And the Golem decks that we've seen are the Lightning, Tornado, Golem decks as well. So this just basically loses to every deck possible in the meta and that we've seen. Lucas can now experiment if he wants. He's up 2-0 in a best of 5. I think he's in no pressure situation, right? If you want to use Clone Lucas and try to catch him off guard, go for it. Blast, I think you go safety here.
Yeah, it's just too tough for Blast to continue to play this beatdown heavy deck with Clone in there. I'm okay with him still going beat down if that's what he's more comfortable with. I think he does need to go comfort here because, you know, what else does he have to lose? I think in game number 3, he needs to go more traditional with what is popular in the meta right now, and he really needs to slow down. I mean, as a coach, Eric, wouldn't you say he's kind of being a little hyper aggressive, especially with these big beatdown decks?
Yeah, and I don't think we saw one time where there was an actual push on the Golem with a Lumberjack with a Night Witch cloned, because when you play clone decks, the biggest thing that you have is that Lumberjack clone dying and raging up the lumberjack itself that's behind the golem. He was golem first play, golem, and then I think there was a barbell and he tried to tank one of the goblins with the golem. Just let it go, let the tower go. Maybe it's the nerves.
Yes.
We do know that he is a little bit more of a rookie. We haven't seen him that much. Lucas is experienced. He's played OCL, he's played CRL bracket, he's played so many different things. So it might be that as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good point that you make out. I mean, knowing, you know, you're a guy that loves to play beatdown Lava Hound, whether it's in the air or on the ground, like, it's really important to know when to min-max, right? You need to know when to take a ton of damage so you can actually build up a threatening push. The worst thing you can do, especially when playing against a deck like that, where you don't have a spell to clean up the Skarmy and the Princess, so you pretty much need to save it for the Skarmy, and then you got to deal with that Inferno Tower. And as you said, he never gave himself enough of a chance to really get a true push coming down the lane.
Yeah, and you're 100% right on that. And even looking back on it, what I didn't realize is, here we go. Here's Lava. This is his deck. He should know how to play this. And starting off with Hoggies, he better hope it's not the full-on Hoggies Mega Knight deck, because that's going to be so hard to defend it, especially if it is an E-Barbs version. And it is. It definitely is. Zappy's flying machine. And it may be a little too predictable. I mean, if we didn't know him, and even not knowing him, we knew he was going to go this way. Yeah, this is... It's looking a little bit tough for him here.
Yeah, Inferno is going to get a lock on the tower, so we're going to get a good amount of damage in. The Mother Witch actually focuses on the Inferno Dragon as opposed to those pups. Somehow, some way, dude, that push actually worked out. I was in the same boat as you. It looked like trouble. A great high fireball to get those skeleton dragons off the board, but then that Mother Witch just would not focus where Lucas needed it.
Yeah, I think Lucas didn't expect that Inferno Dragon to go down straight behind the lava, and he played Zappies too early on. Here's going with the Skarmy again, even though Lucas loves this Mother Witch. I'm not sure what the play is there. Maybe we're going to see a Fireball. That is a lot of Fireball value if he does want to use it, but that's going to be towered down. He just has not enough ground troops. It's what I expected early on, right? You do see the Fire Spirits, which are great against the Hoggies, but where's your Mega Knight counter?
Yeah, exactly. And I was just going to say, I don't know if I really love going aggro balloon at the bridge when you see the Mega Knight dropped in the back. It's one of those situations where, yes, you don't want to allow your opponent to build too much of a push in one lane. But the other thing is that balloon, if he ignores it or if he does what he did where he plays a flying machine off opposite lane, it provides absolutely zero utility for that 5 elixir you just spent. And then you saw Lucas took advantage of it. All right, I'll go ahead and go Mega Knight plus Royal or plus E-Barbs plus Flying Machine. Good luck.
Yeah, and I'm actually a little bit scared here. Okay, I'm a little bit less scared now. I saw the Skarmy, and usually when you see Skarmy in lava, it's clone, and I was just hoping it wasn't clone again. So that lightning gives me a little bit more of the breathing room. And overall, he's doing fine. Like you said, though, you were right. I think that Loon was just giving up your own tower for something that you didn't need, really. You had... Ooh, he missed the fireball on the Loon, which was the most important part. Those Zappies are going to be enough to keep it alive. Oh, no, I think this is just a matter of time at this point. I'm not sure what went wrong. Yeah, go ahead.
What were you going to say?
No, I'm not sure what went wrong for Lucas. I think the trade was fine. I think it might have been the fact that he put no pressure, right? When he just went into full defensive mode. And I think he has the more offensive deck. You ended up just going elite barbs on the bridge, knowing that he has an easy defense with the Skarmy. If you go Mega Knight, he has nothing. He has a Skarmy that dies. The Mega Knight kills it in 3 shots at most. So I think it was just a little bit of maybe not remembering the defenses, not knowing the cycle in hand for Blaz, but clearly he feels a lot more comfortable with Lava than Golem.
Yeah, I think that's a really, really good point that you make there. That was the one moment where it felt like, you know, he did come back. That was a really great tower trade. You know, we were both giving Blaz a little bit of a hard time for getting that balloon in, maybe being a little bit too hyper aggressive. But then, you know, sending in those elite barbarians to the Skarmy was just brutal when you talk about elixir trades. And then Blaz just kind of picked him apart from there on out. He played a lot more patient this game.
Yeah, and all the pushes were complete pushes, which is another positive change that we saw for the first time. I think we saw lava, loon, dragon, inferno dragon, and that's where you saw him actually take the towers. That's how you play beatdown decks. Give up that tower, there's absolutely no problem, because I'm gonna take 2 of them.
Yeah, and you know, the other thing that was really, really great there, and you talk about putting these pushes together, was saving enough elixir to get that push down the board and get the lightning out. That lightning coming out defensively was huge because offensively was huge because what it did was it baited out those E-barbs in the opposite lane. You know, Lucas goes, all right, fine, you're going to play all that in the left hand. I'm going to take your right tower. Baits out the E-barbs, makes the positive trade with the Skarmy, game in hand. Blaz slowed things down, and now he finds himself only 1 game back. Yes, every single game is an elimination game from him moving forward, but he's also still only 1 game away from tying things up.
Yeah, and we saw the difference when he played something that he's comfortable with. I think this is what he needs to keep doing. Now you understand, you're in the game. The nerves are down. Okay, I can beat him. This isn't going to be a 3-0. Let me keep going the route that I want to go, because it wasn't a traditional lava deck either. It had fire spirits with lightning and arrows. And if you're comfortable with it, go with it. None of these players really have played against you before. They don't know you. The analysis is a little bit harder. So use that to your advantage. And I want to see him not repeat lava. Hopefully, I think it might be a little too predictable, and Lucas, being an experienced player, might, you know, set up correctly for that. But keep playing and keep doing you.
So here we go, hopping into our 4th game. Lucas starts off strong with 2 wins. Blaz bounces back in that last one to pick up his first game of this series, of this best of 5. And yeah, Eric, I would love to see Blaz go, you know, beat down again, but maybe, you know, I've seen some double prints out there, and I've seen a lot of Electro Giant.
I've seen a lot of Electro Giant. I've seen a lot of double prints, but the 2 times I've seen bats out of Blaze, it's been the Golem clone. So I'm just praying it's not that again. He is holding off till double elixir, so it might be that, and I hope it's not. They're both holding off. It could be E-Giants. If it is E-Giant on the bottom and it's Golem on the top, it's not looking great for him. That does come with Tornado, and I'm not sure. He had arrows in the Golem deck, right?
Yeah, I believe so. I think it was arrows and clone. And, you know, what's really interesting, too, is that last game when you talk about, you know, it falling in Blaze's favor or Blaz's favor, Lucas had a really, really kind of unfortunate interaction down in the bottom right-hand side where his Mother Witch did focus on the Inferno Dragon as opposed to those lava pups. If that were the case, when it focused on the pups instead and one of those piggies was able to distract the Inferno Dragon, we might be looking at a very different game number 3 and maybe even the end of a set. I feel like Blaz got pretty lucky there with the Mother Witch matchup again, and I'm hoping he's not going to feed that Mother Witch here in game number 4.
You're absolutely right. And also on top of that, if he didn't use the Mother Witch to defend the lava on the left and he had put it on the right when the E-barbs got Skarmied, that would have been a lot of Hoggies to deal with and not a lot of ground troops to do it with.
Yeah, that's actually a really, really great call. So Lucas maybe just not in the best rotation to get the best out of that Mother Witch in the last game. But here we go. We're into, all right, I was like, we're into overtime, or excuse me, we're into double elixir. And now we see that Lumberjack working down the right-hand side. Eric, is it possible he's doing it again?
Yes, this has to be the Golem clone deck. He has... When you have Lumberjack and you wait until double elixir, it can only be that, because you're not going to wait till double when you have a Loon Cycle deck with Lumberjack. You want to use that single elixir to your advantage. And here we go. He decided to go with it again, and I'm pretty sure this Mega Knight cleans up fairly well. He actually repeated, and I don't know if he's going to be able to defend this.
Yeah, I mean, this is a huge push. That Fireball is going to do great cleanup on the bats. Now the Skarmy comes down. Mother Witch distracted, though, by that Lumberjack, so not able to get a ton of piggies down on the board. But those Royal Piggies are already there. Eric, can he defend this?
This is huge. He just wasted his Bar Barrel as well, and this is what I was talking about. When you have that Lumberjack and you actually can get it, oh, wow. Look how many troops. Look how many troops. That was one cycle of hits.
Yeah, and the Mother Witch was right there. She was soaking up the damage for a second. I thought she was popping pigs, and that was taking for the tower, then gets overwhelmed. Fireball comes in. That's got to be heartbreaking, man. Blaz really, really looked like he was going to steal that game, but just not enough time.
Yeah, it was a matter of I think 1 second, because if all the troops that he had on there, I think he had like 9 bats, 2 lumberjacks, the golem, night witch, baby dragon. If all of those get a hit, that's 1,000 damage easy. So I think Lucas on one side is thanking the heavens that ended up in fireball range, and Blaz, I mean, I don't know what to say, man. That golem clone, yeah, it was gonna work at the end, but at the end of the day, it didn't work. 0-3 with golem clones.
Yes, it's still exactly. At the end of the day, it still did not work. It almost worked, but it still did not work. And I think, honestly, I mean, he doesn't have a coach, he doesn't have analysts. If you did, I think they would probably ask you, what were you thinking running this deck back to back, and then again in your elimination game after you finally picked up a win? A really bit of a surprise there to see. And honestly, I'm just kind of shocked.
When I saw the bats, I had that, that feeling in my stomach. I had a player who's in this competition. His name is Igor, and he likes to repeat decks. So I kind of get that feeling when I know that someone's going to repeat the deck, and it's just not the one you want to repeat. Igor, you want to use Mortar 17,000 times, go for it. You've won 6 ladder championships. You won a world championship. This is not the same. This is golem clone. You're a rookie. You need to go a little bit more meta, in my opinion. If you don't want to use more lava, if you don't want to use more golem, go ahead, hit up Royal API, hit up whatever you want. Grab those top ladder decks, practice them a little bit, and go safe.
So to let you guys know kind of where we're at, we have, of course, Mateja going up against his opponent, Ayal Shihi here. Next up, and of that match that we just saw, we're going to see Lucas moving on forward. This is double elimination here in the group stage. So he's going to be moving on forward to the third match of the, or I guess the fourth match of the day, where he'll be playing the winner of Mateja and Ayal Shihi. And of course, the loser of that match, Blaze, will be playing the loser of this match to figure out who will actually be eliminated from the tournament. So a lot of stuff to come here. A great BO5 to start the day. And now we're going to go into the post of what we just saw. And of course, this is Group A here at the Gamestars final.
And another point to note, congratulations to Lucas to at least securing that top 3 and not being eliminated. That is a huge factor. Yes, first place goes straight into the finals, but Lucas at least can breathe, right? You know that no matter what, you live to fight another day. Right now, Blast has all the pressure, and right before we get into the next match, I'm also very excited because I think Mateja is one of those players that I expect to see in the top 4 of the whole event. And he's just been killing it for a long time.
Yeah, Mateja is one of those guys that we knew his name coming into this tournament. On the other side of it, his opponent, a guy that was talking about playing for 700 matches a week. That's an insane number to keep track of, 700 matches a week. So right now we're going to look at the highlights of that last set. And Eric, as you can see right here, this is game number 1 when it was, it seemed okay to run Golem Clone. You were still trying stuff out.
Yeah, and then this is where you knew it wasn't gonna happen for him. When you tank a goblin barrel with a golem, it's all downhill from there. And this was the shining moment for him, right? This is where it actually worked out. He went to his comfort deck, he went to lava, he let his tower go down, which is what we were talking about. Take that damage, let it go down, and he formed a nice counter push here. This match kind of gave us a little bit of hope that we might see a game 5.
Yeah, I mean, the Mother Witch there just not really paying off for Lucas the way that he would have liked. So now you can see here in that final elimination game, seconds, moments, milliseconds away from being able to push it to a 2-tower game where I feel like Blaz would have been in a really good situation. But Fireball comes in, Lucas closes out the set 3-2-1 and moves on to, the winner's part of our bracket. This is exactly what we were talking about just a moment ago. Lucas wins 3-1. So you can see this match. And below, Ayal Shihi going up against Mateja. The loser of that will be sent down to play against Blaz. And of course, the winner of that will go up against Lucas to figure out who is going to be pushed on through to our finals. Our finals will be taking place in May. Of course, we have the entire group stage to work through here in April.
I'm excited. I'm hopefully, look, I have nothing against ILShiyu, but I would love to see Mateja Lucas in the winners match. I think they're two players that we've known for a long time, two of the highest quality players that Clash has to offer. So if we get to see that in our first group, I'd be super excited.
Yeah, I mean, that's the matchup that I'm looking forward to seeing as well. I'm curious, how much Mateja has been playing in the offseason, though. You heard ILShiyu talk about, he's like, before this tournament, I was only playing for, a few hours or maybe an hour a day. Like you said, we've known Mateja for a long time. Has he been practicing hours and hours a day like someone like Muhammad Light, who we know has been really putting in the time and it has been paying off in CRL?
When I heard ILShiyu say he played 700 matches a week, it reminded me of when I used to play World of Warcraft and I would bring my food to my computer. I'm not moving. I'm just playing over and over again. That's how I picture him, because 700 matches is a lot of practice.
That is insane. But you might have also heard in that intro video that he wants to play Graveyard because he thinks it's broken. It's too powerful. And right now, looking like he could be rocking something a bit different.
Yeah, I think that video maybe was made right before he realized that Mother Witch is meta, and that if he plays Graveyard, it could end up working very, very badly and it's not really as broken as we used to see it, right? I never thought it was broken just because of the fact that you always depended on a little bit of RNG. You only remember the matches when it's broken in your favor. You don't remember the ones that are the other way, right? You're like, oh, look at all these skellies hit. Yeah, I just killed it. But there's so many moments where you're saying, why is nothing hitting, right? And I think that's part of Graveyard, and I don't know. I don't think it's broken, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think it's in a good place right now, and as we talked about, and we've already seen, that Mother Witch is a really tough counter to the Graveyard. So we see here Royal Giant from Mateja, top of your screen, gets a few shots in on that right-hand side when ILShiyu cycles that Mega Knight to the left. Mega Knight doesn't get much. Royal Giant does come out on top, giving Mateja the lead.
Yeah, and this could still be a Graveyard variant of MK Graveyard deck. It's not 100% not Graveyard, but I do think overall he has a decent matchup defensively. He does have the Goblin Cage. He has the Fisherman if he needs it. And even with the slow of the E-Wiz onto the Royal Giant, he's not looking all that bad. He just needs to make sure to always be able to take care of the Fisherman on the other side. You don't want your DPS being pulled away from that Royal Giant, because that's when it gets a little bit sketchy.
Yeah, and the Graveyard does come out there. A little surprised to see the way that the Electro Wizard was used by ILShiyu, kind of tanking for the Mega Knight. Maybe it was just a missed drop there. It came down in front of the Mega Knight instead of behind, and then ends up tanking for it a little bit. Not getting a lot out of that Graveyard. And yeah, at first we saw the Goblin Cage and the Baby Dragon. We were thinking, all right, maybe it is Graveyard. Add in the Electro Wizard plus the Fisherman and the Snowball. Not quite as traditional, but also Graveyard decks are changing up a little bit right now because of the things that we've talked about with the meta.
Yeah, and that's a great Fisherman pull to make sure the Muskie actually gets a lot more value than it would have. If that Mega Knight would have jumped on, it would have been a whole different story. But Teja's playing this very well. He understands that the Royal Giant cannot go down until he forces out a lot of those other cards, and that's exactly what he did. He used the E-Barbs to bait, and I could expect the Fisherman here possibly. There it is. He predicts the Fisherman with his Fisherman, and although that's not gonna pull the Goblin from the Goblin Cage, I think it's not worth it, in my opinion. He ended up using his Fisherman. He has it out of cycle now, so he cannot push, and at the end of the day, he still ended up taking some damage.
Yeah, that is a really interesting kind of breakdown that you have there. Here we go. Mega Knight aggressive at the bridge with the Baby Dragon. Going to get pulled in by that Fish Boy. Skelly's up high, but the Baby Dragon to take those off the board. Now the Graveyard putting in work on the tower with, of course, those E-Barbs in Snowball to help slow everything down.
That's such a nice Electro Spirit. That's where you say the decision to play Electro Spirit over Heal Spirit definitely worked out for him, right? When you play against Graveyard and you have Electro Spirit, you know it's taking out 9 of those Skellies. It definitely gives you that extra cushion. What I'm surprised that we haven't seen yet is for him to try and pull that MK onto the tower with the Fisherman, right? It's an activation that we've seen so many times, and if you can get that King Tower activated against Graveyard, it's basically game over.
Yeah, and I really don't like that aggressive Royal Giant at the bridge. You kind of understand wanting to bait maybe some elixir out of your opponent, but it felt like a bit of an oversell. Now here we go. Once again, Graveyard in with Snowball, Electro Wizard up high, and there is the Royal Giant again at the bridge. Goblin Cage to catch. Fisherman's on both sides.
Yeah, and here we go with the elite barbs. This is basically last ditch effort. I don't think it's gonna amount to much, honestly. Good MK, and I think it ended up being more of Mateja trying to get a little bit aggressive when he shouldn't have. When you play matchups like this, we've seen the best RG players start with RG in the back, make sure you can get that double lane push. He doesn't have all that DPS, right? He has the Goblin Cage. If you can bait it out with one RG, it's not like he can cycle back to it. When we used to see those bomb tower decks with the wall breakers and everything, you could cycle back to 2 bomb towers. Here you have Mega Knight, you have Ewiz, you have Baby Dragon. They're heavy cards. It's not a quick cycle. I would have liked to see him play maybe some RGs in the back and then split lane with the split barb E-barbs, maybe Fisherman. I'm not sure, but on the other side of the rookie, I guess 700 games played a week, definitely paying off.
Yeah, you know what? I think that's a really good call that you make about getting that Royal Giant in the back. A lot of the greatest Royal Giant players, as you said, they'll start with cycling that Royal Giant in the back so they can get 2 on the board at the same time. That's a really important word, or at least phrase, to focus on, because we saw Mateja get a Royal Giant down in one lane and then the other in a very close one after the other, as opposed to one in the back, one at the bridge, and then you drop that third one down, so that there's always 2 on the board for that about 20-30 seconds of defense for your opponent. And he just didn't have the patience to put that together, or maybe just not the elixir. But I agree with you, Eric. I think it's more about patience and trying to get a little bit too much out of not enough space.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, you have to get that King Tower activation. If you have Fisherman and they have Mega Knight, that needs to happen. You have to take the risk.
Yeah.
If you take that risk and it doesn't really pay off and the Fisherman doesn't activate, it is what it is. The matchup is not looking in your favor anyway. But I think when you're playing for $30,000 and you know that that's the only real way to secure the match, I would have liked to see him, really go for it.
Yeah, I like that call, man. I mean, you're former world champion for a reason. Yeah, really nice. I mean, that was a hugely aggressive push, and it ends up getting damage on the tower, and he has to overspend, so they find themselves basically even in elixir. Nice aggro play there from Mateja.
And that's what I like to see from Mateja. This is where you know that you're the more experienced player. You know that you've won in the biggest competitions. Don't be afraid to take those risks. Go with those magic archers. Go with those fisherman activations. Make it happen. Put the pressure onto the less experienced player.
Yeah, no surprise here seeing Hog triple spell after you see, of course, the Earthquake Snowball and the log coming out from Shihi. It's going to be an interesting matchup here. Obviously, those E-Barbs are going to do a great job against the Hog. You got the Electro Wizard to slow things down. No building, though, to keep things at bay. We'll see how that Cannon Cart comes into play.
The good thing is with the elite barbs the way they are right now, if you place them as soon as the Hog goes down, it actually stops it completely. You don't need any other defense. It gets no hits, but he's outcycling himself. He's using the barbs on the bridge instead of knowing that that's his best defense for the Hogs, and it's ending up costing him more, right? You might say, yeah, but the elixir trade isn't as good. Well, look at that. He's used for 2 Hogs. He's had to use Ewiz and Bandit, which ends up being more expensive than just saving those E-barbs.
Yeah, it's all about that discipline, right, man? If you're going to play at the highest level, we've all been there in games before where you're like, all right, the guy has X card. Goblin Barrel is probably the most, approachable one for everyone that plays the game. If they have Goblin Barrel and I have Log, I must save my Log for that Goblin Barrel 90% of the time. And I think that's a really good call what you're talking about with those E-Barbs actually being underutilized to stop the Hog and create a counter push.
Yeah, and look at that ghost on the left. It just got, I think, what, 600, 700 damage, and it forced out the snowball. This is where you need to know if you're Mateja, you got a free pass to defend any Hog until he gets back to that snowball. He cannot snowball your E-barbs, and he cannot snowball a Bandit E-Wiz either. So now you're good. This is where you start from the back. I like what he's doing. He knows the pressure just cannot come right now. And he's definitely taking advantage of that. He's building up a massive push. I'd be surprised if he doesn't get at least a good amount of damage here. And there's that magic archer. Good log to push it back to keep it off the tower. But look at the pressure.
Yeah, really nice pressure there. I'm actually kind of shocked the defense was as clean as it was, but it's not over yet. Bandit very healthy here. Skeletons do come down, but that cannon cart's still taken on the left-hand side. Bandit dash in on that left tower. 738 remains. Shihi is just getting overrun right now.
Yeah, when he forced out that snowball, even though it's a 2 elixir card and it doesn't seem like much, it is a lot because it ruins your whole push. And the only way that you can take Mateja off the board and make sure that you can keep control is that you make him defend with those E-barbs or you force out expensive defenses. And when you can't do that, this is what happens. Slowly the pushes become uncontrollable.
Yeah, man, an ocean of elixir on the board here for Mateja. You see 2 cannon cards plus on the right-hand side, 2 magic archers in the middle of the board, E-barbs down, Royal Ghost. I can't even continue to keep up with the amount of cards on the board. Overrun and outgamed is IL Sheehy in game number 2.
Yeah, and to add insult to injury, when that hog was going on to the other side, the cannon died and went into that state, and the hog went back into his own side as if he needed that as well. It just it didn't work out at all. And Mateja, this is the level that I expect to see from him.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what you want to see out of that game. You saw him slow things down, starting to build pushes from the back, as you called out. And really, Eric, that's kind of the moment. He recognized that, you know, IL Sheehy had overspent on his last defense, and instead of going hyper-aggressive like we saw out of him in game number 1, a lot of nerves out there, a lot of money on the line, he decides to slow things down, build stuff from the back, and be okay with not taking the game on the first push, but recognizing that the over-expenditure and push 1 is going to make it so you can take the tower and push 3.
Absolutely, you're 100% right. And also what you say is true. I am putting a lot of pressure on him being experienced, but there are nerves. Like you said, there's $30,000 on the line, and he is 16. Even though he has 5 years played on the game, that still gives him. He's 16 at the end of the day. When I was 16, I was nervous to ask my parents for $10 to go to the movies. You know, so yeah, I agree with you. You're right.
Yeah, I remember getting $20 and feeling like I had struck gold. So the idea of that 30K, the 7K to the winner is just absolutely massive. So here we are, guys, in our second BO5. We're tied at 1 here in Group A. And of course, this is double elimination here in the group stage. Winner of this will go on to play Lucas, and the loser will go on to face off against Blaze to try and not get eliminated here on day 1 of the Gamestars Clash Royale League inaugural season.
Yeah, this is huge. Being into that winner's match, even if you end up losing it, just the fact that you know that you're making it another day, because like we heard, they definitely prepared a lot. They practiced a lot, and to go out in the first day, first group is not the way you want it to go. And IL Sheehy coming here with something a little more meta. This is something that we didn't see out of the other less experienced player in the group. So I like that he is a little more adapted to what we're accustomed to seeing in this meta.
Yeah, me too. I think it's really, really important. It's something that we've seen every single time. I mean, I think Rich said it the other day. We've been casting up here for 7 seasons, and you've been a part of it since the very beginning as well. You know, beginning as a coach, now as a caster, and like keeping up with the meta and evolving with the meta is integral in gameplay. And watching players that have kind of fallen to the wayside from back 7 seasons ago to now, a lot of it has to do with not being able to keep up with the meta and play other decks. Versatility, man.
Absolutely. Historically, I've had the pleasure of coaching probably the best, one of, if not the best player in history in Surgical Goblin. And it's amazing to see whenever the meta changed, it would change at 3 in the morning in LA, right? He was up at 3 a.m. with Canario practicing every new interaction. He wanted to know everything that was happening. He tested out every new troop, everything. How many hits will the Musketeer take on this? How many? It was incredible to see. And I guess that's why he has the career that he had. And that's what these players should learn from him.
Yeah, big shout out to Surgical Goblin, the GOAT, CRL, and the Clash Royale competitive scene definitely misses him, but he did pave the way in doing things exactly like you're talking about, Eric. It is not easy to be the best in the world, and you've got to do stuff like that. Great fireball comes down, but another Royal Giant in the opposite lane. A lot to deal with here for IL Sheehy. Not much on the left-hand side, but that Royal Giant going to get some damage in on the right.
Yeah, and what's good about that for Mateja is that he ended up forcing the E-barbs out of him, even though he knew that he was still going to get a lot of damage. It was one of those desperation E-barbs, and now he's putting up his own on the bridge. What's that going to force? Every other troop that he has, because you know how much damage these do. You cannot let them get on your tower.
So here we go. Royal Giant start working the way down the left-hand side. Fisherman is there. Double Fish Boy is going to be on the board. Yes, sir. E-Barbs get up front to pull on top of the Fisherman. Really nice play there with the E-Barbs.
Yeah, and I like what Mateja's actually doing here by putting that Musketeer placement. Although you might look at it and see like, wow, that's a lot of fireball value onto the tower. Yeah, but now you can't hit the E-Barbs, right? You cannot hit the Fisherman. So he's taking some damage there to avoid him being able to defend and actually forcing out so much other defenses onto the E-Barbs. On the other side, we've seen She give up so much fireball value onto the E-Barbs, onto the Fisherman. It's two different ways of playing this, and it's definitely working out more for Mateja.
Yeah, the fireball value coming out from Mateja has been phenomenal this game, and he really took advantage and punished Ayal for overspending with those E-Barbs in numerous different places. We saw that fireball come down right on top of 3 separate troops, and usually it was that second set of troops that really got the fireball on the board that gave Mateja that huge advantage. Once again, it just felt like he outgamed his opponent. The other thing that I have to point out was that beautiful Electro Spirit that he pre-cycled, and it ended up making that Fisherman of Ayal completely useless for the Royal Giant.
Yeah, you're 100% right. And I think it was 2 or 3 different times throughout the game. Even I think in the first play of the game, Mateja put down a Musketeer that was about to get fished. He Electro-Spirited onto an E-Wiz that then hit the Fisherman and reset it and gave value to his own Musketeer. So definitely got a lot of use and out of that 1 Elixir card. And the last thing to touch on, they both had a Fireball bait card. Mateja decided to, you know what, I'm going to bait you out. I'm going to let you think that you're getting tower damage and my Musketeer gone, and then I'm going to pressure you the other way. And I think that's something that gave him the game as well.
Yeah, I felt like that fireball early on was a little bit too much, and then you saw the punishment come out from Mateja, who is up 2-1 right now after dropping an early game number 1 against Ayal. Just playing a little bit too aggressive probably in that game. Right there in game number 3, we saw him playing Royal Giant again, but much more comfortable cycling it in the back of the map, letting those pushes come to him, building those powerful pushes as he was, as his elixir allowed, as opposed to forcing a lot of interactions.
And look, man, I've had the pleasure of coaching rookies. I've had the pleasure of being in this game for so long. And something I've said over and over again is the biggest mistake inexperienced players and rookies make is they try to go too aggressive. They want to take the tower. They see their tower at 1,000 and they start thinking attack. And that's completely the opposite for those experienced players. You've seen Igor have 200 on his tower and play like he has 5,000. That you need to maintain calm. You need to relax. And I think that's what Ayal needs to do here.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I've recognized the most when watching these great players play is the very, very last millisecond is when their response will come down defensively. Their offensive cards will only come out when they're at 10 elixir, or they'll only sell down to 0 when they know exactly where their opponents are at cycle and elixir wise. They don't really seem, they may seem like last-ditch efforts when you're watching on broadcast, but you have to remember there's a lot more that goes into that decision making. Just being like, okay, this card seems like fun. Let's see how it works out.
Yeah, exactly. And you hit the, you hit it right where it is. It looks last second to us, but they know exactly what they're doing. It's all calculated, and not a bad start to this game for Mateja. I usually don't say go graveyard this early on, but when he puts that many troops onto a left tower and you have fireball, there's absolutely nothing wrong with going graveyard and being a little bit aggressive.
Yeah, and you saw there the troops of Ayal kind of getting turned around. Another aggressive graveyard here from Mateja. We'll see if this one pays off as well as the last one now that Mother Witch is in cycle. Fireball comes in. He misses it, man. That's a huge miss.
Yeah, that's terrible. Not only does it force now the Tesla, right? Because you have the Hoggies and that Mother Witch is still alive, but you gave up so much damage of your own. He had nothing else to defend. That was it. Everything else was defending the middle troops. He misses again with a delivery that doesn't catch one of the elite barbarians, and now it forces him out to over defend actually this Royal Giant.
See Mother Witch there getting taken off the board with the fireball, getting a little bit of value in 15-20 to very, very healthy towers on the other side of the board. Surprised that Ayal was not able to get anything out of that push. Now just sends in a fireball on its own. See if he can get anything there, a little bit of chip damage.
What I didn't like about Ayoshi, I think he's listening to me when I said you got to be a lot more patient. You don't have to be patient when they miss a fireball. He missed the fireball and then he went RG in the back. No, you put that on the bridge. You have the Mother Witch. You have everything you need. Go, go, go, go. And I think that's why he got no damage. He gave him enough time to recover from that mistake.
Yeah, and especially like what you said, Eric, that fireball, excuse me, that Tesla had already been brought out on the board to deal with the piggies from the Mother Witch. So if that Tesla's already pre-cycled, you've got to be able to create a little bit of pressure there. And now Ayal Shihi may be playing a bit too predictable, as the fireballs from Matea in games 3 and 4 have been brutal.
Yeah, this is not, I'm looking at the match right now, and although we've seen historically that it makes sense for the RG to be cycled in the back, look at his cycle. If you cycle an RG, he's gonna Tesla up. It's gonna have that same half health that we just saw, and by the time you can cycle 6 RGs, he'll cycle 8 Teslas. You know, so it's not exactly the right matchup. That's the problem.
You see here, right-hand side, Valkyrie tanking for archers, getting a ton of damage in, and now you see a push coming back on the left-hand side from the Mother Witch, dealing with those skeletons from the graveyard, and actually a pretty substantial push here coming across the bridge. But is there enough time? Second Tesla? No second Tesla.
I don't think it's needed. I wouldn't have even put it down there, right? You could have just gone with a mega minion and it was game over. He just had too quick of a cycle. He had that delivery fireball, I think takes care of all the supporting troop as well, and he gave him too much room to defend. When you have that quick of a cycle, you have a control deck, you cannot RG in the back. He cycles quicker than you, so even if you cycle twice, that's fine with him. He doesn't really care. Give me an offensive push and then I'll still cycle again.
Yeah, and conversely, if you're talking about Ayal Shihi's deck and how much more, heavy it was and how much more elixir reliant it was than Matea's, then he has to take advantage of those mistakes, like that fireball, as you were saying earlier.
Yeah, I mean, when you see a fireball miss and you don't instantly say, okay, I'm gonna go here and pressure. I think he even put an RG in the back and then he went Elite Barbarians in the same lane earlier before the RG. In that case, if you're already going to do that type of push, you got to split lane, right? You can't just allow him to easily defend with archers and skellies. 14 elixir push. You know he's down, and the only way that he can still maintain himself in the match is by not pressuring him or giving him easy defenses with low elixir cards.
And it really felt like the experience of Matea, as we're kind of looking back through all of these highlights, was what really shined through here in this matchup. We saw Ayal Shihi getting hyper aggressive numerous times and giving Matea way too much fireball value. We also saw Matea take really great advantage of his opponent overspending and under defending. That was something that happened over and over, especially once we got into halfway through game 2. I believe games 3 and 4, it was nothing but over defenses from Ayal Shihi, which made that an easy win there for Matea. So starting off our 2 BO5s, we've got 2 3-1s. Lucas taking down Blaz 3-1. Right there, you just saw Matea taking down Ayal Shihi 3-2-1. Winners are going to be Lucas and Matea to figure out who makes it all the way on through, gets that bye to the international finals. And of course, Blaz and Ayal Shihi battling for their lives to stay here in the Gamestars tournament and fight for that $30,000.
And I think it's what we expected, right? We not only wanted to see, but we kind of expected to see Lucas versus Matea in these type of situations. When you have bracket play for that much money, usually experience prevails. I don't expect it to be like that all tournament. Obviously we're gonna see some surprises in the groups, or at least I hope so, because it adds a little bit of that element. But we are gonna see one of the other 2 players move on to the next day. Only one player gets eliminated, so they still have a lot to fight for. On one end, you need to see Ayal Shihi say, okay, I need to understand better when to defend, when to attack, when to take advantage. And on the other side, we need to see Blast say, no more golem clone, let me try something else. So 2 completely different scenarios, 2 different things that need fixes, and I think they're gonna have a little bit of time to get used to that and prepare, as we're first gonna see the other match, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I thought it's pretty funny you say that. I was wondering what you were like, what spin you were gonna put on the fact of like there are other cards in the game that you need to play, Blaz. So next up we're gonna see Matea and Lucas and what's that?
It's like one of those blasts. If you see me, if you hear me, use the other cards, man. Come on, I believe in you.
I know. And what I really noticed here, Eric, in BO5s, what I think is really fascinating is, the more patient, calculated, and experienced players really shone through in these two sets. I think both of them dropped game number 1, maybe because of nerves, but that's the great thing about BO5s and why pros have liked BO5s over BO3s for so long, is you really start to see the weakness of your opponent shine through over the course of what could be a 5-game series. Your opponent could have great matchups 2 games in a row in a BO3 and you're eliminated, but try to do that every single time in a BO5. Those moments of under defending, overspending, and maybe not having great decksmanship, that really shows through in a BO5.
Yeah, and also this format not being any duels format actually ends up working out for players like Lucas and Matea when they play against other unexperienced players. When you see that that Blaz, maybe if this was a duels format, Blaz wouldn't have, well, we know he wouldn't have repeated that. He would have been forced to try something else, and it might have been even harder for Lucas because he wasn't able to get 3 very, very good matchups against a deck that's not meta. It actually ended up working against Blaz, the fact that he didn't have to use a duels format.
And what I really like about what Lucas did here is if you look on the left-hand side of your screen, you're going to see all the decks that he ran or some of his more popular decks. He used a lot of unique different cards. He didn't repeat a lot, maybe thinking about CRL, maybe thinking forward into the duels format. He wasn't a person that repeated win conditions a lot, and he wasn't a person that repeated tons of his favorite cards a lot. We did see the Mother Witch out there, but honestly, after playing against Blaz, why wouldn't he want to run it back knowing that his opponent was like so insistent on giving that Mother Witch a ton of value? Eric, do you have a favorite in this matchup? Both these guys played some really clean CR.
If I'm looking at the past couple of months, I'm going Matea. If I'm looking at what I saw for today, I actually like Lucas's gameplay a little bit more. Even though, yes, Matea played more of the harder decks and he played against more current matches that are supposed to be a little more difficult. Lucas defended and played perfectly both of his all 3. I said both because he only played against 2 decks and he had a little bit unfortunate against the lava with the Mother Witch. But I think overall I'm gonna go Matea just on what I've seen in the past 2 months.
So here we go, guys. This is our schedule for the day. As we were just talking about, Lucas takes down Blaz 3-1. Matea repeats that same fashion over Ayel Shihi 3-1. Next up, we're going to see who gets to move on to our group finals. And of course, following this match, this best of 5 will be our elimination game.
Yeah, this is it, right? This is first place in group. This is where you make that money, right? I know you're not assured you're not assured. It's not like you're taking down 30K, but you're definitely happy to be in that finals. And both of these players we know will probably make it onto the next stage, seeing what we've seen so far today. But it's definitely a lot nicer when you don't have to play an extra match to make it. And here we go. Right now we're gonna see Ghost onto not the tower, but Skarmy again. Lucas going out with this bait, and honestly I'm not 100% sure if it's gonna work out the same way that it worked out against Blaz, because Matea here going with a lot more traditional. This is bridge spam. This is something that we can expect to see a lot more in this meta. It should be the version with the elite barbarians. Lucas forgetting that he's actually playing against one of the most experienced players and going with something a little not that prevalent here. And I'm not sure it's gonna work out for him the same way it worked out the first time we saw it. He does have Inferno Tower, but when you see the troops on the Matea side of this, it's not the best building. You would definitely like to see more of a Goblin Cage. This is gonna be a little bit complicated. I expect to see later on a push where you will see the Magic Archer go directly into the middle to predict the Inferno Tower, and every push is gonna get a little bit harder, especially that Ghost. That Ghost, if you don't have the Knight in cycle, which you also need for the Bandit and you need for the other troops like the Cannon Cart, it's going to become a problem. It does a lot of splash damage. You have enough with the magic archer as well to deal with it, and slowly he's losing control. Yes, he has the damage lead, but every push is getting a little bit harder to defend, and good log there to make sure the princess stays alive. This is good overall play from both. It's exactly what we expected. The bandit forcing out the Inferno Tower, the bandit actually going on the bridge, and this is what I said, no knight, the ghost is going to become a problem every single time. Good Skarmy though to surround it there.
Yeah, really nice Skarmy to get on top of that Royal Ghost there. It's not really about timing with that. It's just about having it available because Royal Ghost can't splash in all directions. And yeah, man, this has been a really great matchup so far. Do you give a specific deck a strong advantage in this matchup?
If you're bait, you don't want to see triple elixir. If I've seen a deck that just has, you've seen it, man. You've casted CRL since the beginning. When you see the best players play these bridge spam decks in triple elixir, it is just impossible to stop.
Yeah, I mean, literally every single defense you play, you have to overspend on, and it's impossible not to, right? Because, you know, you talk about the threat of the pressure of the bandit, the splash damage from the magic archer and the Royal Ghost being up high and down low, and there it is, Eric, overwhelmed on the left-hand side. Yeah. And I guess he'll survive for maybe a second longer. Yeah, maybe 1 second.
Yeah, it's kind of what I was speaking early at the game, right? Slowly you end up losing control out of this. There's just too much splash between the ghost and the magic archer, and then the pressure that the E-barbs and the bandit provide on split lane pushes is just way too much. And I think there was a little bit of a miscalculation here on Lucas's part. You're playing Mateja, you're not playing Blaz anymore. You need to be careful with your deck picks. It's not going to be the same. You can't just run a bait deck, especially one with Inferno Tower, and expect it to work the same way it did before.
Yeah, and also I would have liked to see something maybe a little bit new or fresh there, just because it is, like you said, maybe opponent that's going to bring you a little bit more of a pushback, a little bit more threat than he saw in his first matchup. You know, Mateja and Lucas a little bit more experienced than Ayal Shihi and Blaz. So game number 1, going away from bait and back to bridge spam. Second time today we've seen bridge spam pay off, and it's also something that's been really popular in this meta. Obviously, bridge spam with elite barbarians being put in there instead of P.E.K.K.A. How are you feeling about this bridge spam iteration in this meta?
I love it. I think the elite barbs are something that creates so much pressure, and that you could even split them, right? It's a card that even if you wanted to, you could split them in the back, and then it's even more split lane push. I really like it. The only thing I don't love is that you are giving up a lot of the pressure with the new cannon card. I think that cannon card is definitely an electric cannon card nowadays because it is going a lot slower than it used to.
Yeah.
So that's the only downside to the bridge spam deck that we're seeing here. And he's actually going back to bait, and you're going back to bait, and the first thing you see is a Valk. That is not what you're looking for.
Yeah, not a great feeling there. You see Mateja drop out the well played, maybe just, you know, giving a little bit of love to his opponent, going, okay, you got that first one out because I don't have the perfect thing in cycle, but good luck moving forward. I'm very surprised to see bait back to back here, maybe taking a page from his opponent in the first set, just running back decks that you really want to play.
Yeah, the only problem is it didn't work out for his opponent in the first set. So usually you want to take the strategies that worked, and the ones that worked were yours, Lucas. You ended up switching decks. You made different win conditions happen. Even you said it, right, Andrew? What I like about Lucas is that he changed up a lot of his win conditions, his troops and everything. And the first thing we see here is bait back to back.
Yeah, and it's against an opponent that, you know, did switch up his decks here in, you know, the last set and in this set. And right now it is working out okay for him. You know, down in just a little bit of elixir, and we'll see a little bit of damage, but obviously this is single, and this is a time for bait to shine.
Yeah, this is, I mean, overall, when you look at this matchup, it's not that bad in the sense that he doesn't have a bar barrel, right? He doesn't have a log.
Yep.
The delivery, you always have to play it predictably if you want to avoid damage, and that is a little bit hard. It's not predictably, but you have to have it, you know, hovered over the tower, and as soon as you see that animation from the goblin barrel go down, that's when you have to drop it.
Yeah, it is very, very difficult to time, and that's something, you know, as you're talking about hovering, you watch a lot of the pros out there, and I'm sure a lot of you guys do. When they're streaming, you watch them on Twitch, you watch them on YouTube, they will hover their next card in prediction of what their opponent's going to play 80% of the time, because that's the only way you can get that response down fast enough.
Yeah, exactly. And the problem is, when you actually hover it over, right? That's one thing that your hand is being used for, that it can be used for something else. So if they are able to, you know, make you think that it's coming now and then play something on the bridge, another missed fireball from Mateja onto the Dark Goblin.
Yeah, it's a surprise miss there, and kind of finish your point. Yeah, it's very interesting when you talk about that, Eric, and if you are hovering and they play something that you weren't expecting, you now have to drop that card back in your utility bag, your arsenal, or whatever you call it, your deck, and have to pick up the correct response, so it actually slows a response that you weren't you know, looking forward to.
Exactly, and he's playing this very, very well. Honestly, it's not an easy matchup. He's taking a lot of damage though, and when you look at the bottom end of your screen, if you want to play Graveyard with one deck, I'm pretty sure it's this one.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about the responses, it is just through the roof. Princess opposite lane, Dark Goblin back behind. You saw the missed fireball there, and of course the Skarmy added in for a little bit of a cherry on top. Basically impossible to get a true Graveyard down. And if you want to talk about dealing with the tank end, he really could just drop his knight at the bridge to keep that Valkyrie at bay if he needed to, but he just doesn't need to, man.
Yeah, and it's actually very weird when I'm looking at this Graveyard deck. To play Graveyard without Snowball is such a big risk. You have nothing to take care of troops on the tower.
Yeah, it's a really odd Graveyard deck, because the other big part of Graveyard decks is having to win bridge battles, and he does have good single target DPS when you talk about that Mega Minion, but otherwise he's not really in a great position to win bridge battles. Obviously with this matchup it hasn't become much of a factor, but it's just a tough matchup, period, I think, when you don't have a log against this type of deck.
It's definitely odd, like you said. I think this is a Graveyard deck that I'd expect to see in a duels format, not in you can play whatever you want, however many times you want.
Yeah, that's actually a very good call as well. It seems like this would really shine in case you saw, you know, your opponent play great responses in a previous game, then you could get this deck out. But yeah, gonna be tough here. Mateo just hanging on for dear life. He's gonna continue fireballing those, making negative trades, and just making Lucas really work this last 30 seconds to get that last 84 or 500 HP.
I applaud the never give up attitude, but at this point it's like, all right, man, just let the suffering end. Come on, let's move on to the next one.
Oh, fireball on the Princess, 146, 12 HP. Maybe Lucas is going to go for the double crown here. Nope, log in on the right-hand side. That will do it. We're all even going into game number 3.
Here we go. This is, I mean, I'd love for a game 5 when I see two players that are this well versed in Clash Royale, that play at such a high level. I'm always hoping for them to go to the distance, because look, when I watch my friends play, or if you're spectating me, we don't get to see this gameplay. First of all, I would have given up halfway through. So, I mean, getting to see some great matches early on in the week, early on in the day is definitely something that, you know, as a Clash Royale fan, not only a competitor, I'm happy about.
Yeah, definitely, man. And I think it's really great for all the people out there to kind of take a closer look at the meta in a competitive scene where money is on the line. Obviously, we're going to see, you know, our players step it up a little bit when they see that there's all those dollar signs and zeros, you know, waiting for them at the end of the tunnel. And, you know, kind of talking through this bracket again, this is our winners side of Group A. You know, winning this is huge. We talked about it in CRL a lot about getting that first round bye when you get into playoffs. It's pretty similar here, just looking at groups A and, you know, all the way through our final group. I think it's Group H. You know, we heard our players talk in the video about, like, I think I'm in the hardest group. So if you can get out of this group on day one, not have to go back through and play someone from it to try to squeeze on through to the finals, it's a huge, huge advantage.
Yeah, this is, like you said, I think there's, look, I'm gonna, you know, disagree a little bit on the hardest group, just because there are some other ones, but whenever you play in the group, you always say, I got the hardest group. That's just the way competitors are. You know, we like to say, oh man, look at all these groups, I got the hardest one. Probably when you're looking at it from a non-biased standpoint, it's not the hardest one, but it's definitely one of the tougher. You have two very experienced players, two players that not only are experienced but have been doing well this year. But you know, when you look at some of the other groups, and you know, there's SB and Igor in one of them, there's Hugo Eternity in another one. You're not all that sad that you got this one.
Yeah, you know what? I'm glad that you said it, man, because not to put anyone on blast, but there are a lot of other really big names out there in the tournament. But obviously, it's anyone's given day in Clash Royale, especially in this BO5 standard format. You don't have to worry about duels. Nice King Tower activation there early on. And, you know, here we are, tied up 1-1 in Group A. And I agree with you, man. I don't think I'd want to be in the bracket with Igor either.
Yeah. It's just, you know, there's only one spot that guarantees you finals, and that's not someone you want to play against in a format where he can mortar you up 5 games in a row. Yeah, you can try and counter him. We've seen it, people try and counter so many times and nothing happens. But look at those bats. The magical bats. That's what you love to see when you get those 2 little bats off the tower, and that is so much damage.
That is an insane opening here for Mateja. Defensively, you talk about just the massive misstep. Yes, he gets 1100 damage down, but 524 remaining on his top left tower. And this Mother Witch from Lucas paying dividends again.
Absolutely. And also the fact that, you know, he created pressure with that many troops. He early graveyarded, and the reason why he early graveyarded is to avoid the King Tower activation. If that graveyard didn't go down, he knew that there was Fisherman on the other side, and it would have activated King Tower, and that would have actually turned the game completely over to Mateja. That's why we saw such an early graveyard. It's the only way to make sure that that King Tower doesn't get activated.
Yeah, that's a really great call you make right there, in case people at home were wondering why go so aggressive and how did it pay off so well. There you go. There's the expert breakdown of it. Here we go. 524 remaining on both towers, though. That fireball plus log will bring it down to 280, and now a graveyard back in on the opposite side with a poison. And I think that's about all we're going to see from either of these players in regards to defense or offense on that tower. And here we go. Royal Giant down at the bridge.
This should get a hit, which should be enough to make this a 2-tower game. Now what we're going to see, the only way that Lucas actually wins this game is going to be an MK graveyard in the middle. If he goes from just 1 tower, there's too many defenses on the other side. Mateja could play back all the way back behind the King Tower with the Musketeer and then play Elite Barbarians onto the MK. So what he's gonna have to do is force a very good counter push here, Lucas, and then Graveyard and MK straight up in the middle and tank for both towers.
So you saw right there with what you were talking about, there was actually no way for him to get another Mega Knight down and a Graveyard in time with the way that he had to create enough offense to stop the defense from Mateja. Is this something that Lucas can actually do, or will there just be too much pressure from his opponent to actually get that Graveyard down with enough on the board?
I think he can do it. This is just a matter of let's get to triple elixir, right? This is you do know that once that triple elixir comes down, he actually was too late onto the baby dragon tanking there, and he got a lot of damage that he shouldn't have got, right? But he's 13 seconds away from triple elixir. Take a goblin here, maybe even go MK on this if you wanted to. I think he's setting up for that big push, and I expect that this is exactly when we're going to see it. There's the graveyard. Triple elixir just kicked in. Baby dragon does get even another hit. Those baby dragons are definitely working out for him.
And a bat gets a bite in on the tower. Goblin cut, or cage, you're going to push it back. That is most likely going to do it. You know, still a little bit of time and a little bit of gas left in the tank for Mateja here, but another massive push coming in here from Lucas. Now we maybe get the Mega Knight in the pocket. Nope, he decides to go graveyard.
And log here might just be enough to actually get a good... All right, that was actually very smart of him. The only way to survive that was to RG in the middle. Although you might say, why would you RG in the middle there? That was the only way he survived, but he just survives for a little bit longer. And if that does die... Okay, I thought there was actually a chance there.
It looked like it, but it was the Mother Witch, man. The Mother Witch once again for Lucas. On the right side of the board, getting those hogs to populate the map, soak up that tower attention. Mother Witch comes in, closes it out. And as you said, Mateja made that way closer than I thought it was going to be. Maybe even just 30 seconds before that tower fell.
That was so smart of him. That RG offensive, as soon as he realized, look, this is getting tricky for me, made it so that he couldn't tank for the graveyard. He needed to put that goblin cage down because on the other side, you know you had log and you could probably tank a little bit with the musketeer. So the fact that he went RG there was such a heads up play. Most of us would have been like, okay, I have so many troops coming here. I need to defend. I need to make sure I can get this defense in. Mateja knew that the best defense in that case was the RG offensive. And at the end of the day, he actually ended up with 300 damage left on his tower for Lucas, with an RG was still possibly getting 1 or 2 hits. That Mother Witch, like you said, saved him with that Hoggy spawning in at the last second.
Yeah, that was actually crazy that he was able to get back in the game. And, you know, a big part of that recognition from Mateja was getting that Royal Giant down, and you saw the panic cycle from Lucas to try to get that Goblin Cage out. I can't remember the first card that he dropped, but I know he dropped a Baby Dragon second. Yeah. And you never want to drop a Baby Dragon on top of a Royal Giant as a defensive maneuver, but that was just to get back around to the cage. He gets the cage down just in time. Mother Witch is there, closes out the game. But Mateja really gave him a run for his money there. It's still 2-1, but this seems like a very back and forth set.
And I'm sure right now Mateja is having nightmares about the Baby Dragon, because when you look at how close the game ended up being, he ended up taking at least 700 damage from those Baby Dragons, the missed tank from the Fisherman just a little bit late. And I expect to see another nail biter here. And I think Lucas is going back to a deck that we've already seen him play twice today with the Flying Machine. It's either he goes back to that Hoggies, Zappies, Flying Machine, Fireball bait deck, or we're going to see a Lava out of him.
Right, that's basically the only 2 decks that you'll ever see Flying Machine in. And now with the amount of time that he's using here between dropping his Flying Machine and dropping his second card, thinking we are going to maybe go a bit heavier.
Yeah, this could even be the deck that Blast played against him. It's a very strong deck. It definitely worked out. I don't expect to see the exact deck, just because I don't think Lucas is someone that's going to look at Fire Spirits Lightning and be like, okay, yeah, this is going to work out well against Mateja. Let me go for that. But it might be that version, that style, right? Flying Machine, Lava Loon. I'd expect to see more of a minor, though.
And just to remind you guys where we are, this is the Gamestars League inaugural season, an online esports tournament where top players from around the world will be sharing that lion's share of $42,000. That's right. The grand prize here is going to be a split up of $30K, but there's another 12 to be had for our players that are coming from all around the world: Great Britain, Germany, Russia, Turkey, France, Poland, Ukraine, Kazakhstan, and Sweden. But of course, we have other players from European countries and the Middle East that were all invited to our wild card qualifier. That's where we are here today. 32 players from those qualifiers get us to this international group stage, where Eric and I are joining you guys for day number 1. We'll be back every single day this week, 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. I'm just going to say that because I know which one it is. And of course, 6 p.m. CEST. Here we go. Let's get into the action, man.
I absolutely love the way that no one had that, you know, that ticket, that golden ticket invitation. You had to work for it. It doesn't matter if you're Igor, it doesn't matter who you are. You had to work for that spot in this competition, and it's time to go. He actually waited for double elixir, even though it was not the deck that we expected. It is the Hoggies deck, and I don't know if it's gonna end up paying off. When you play against the graveyard deck, it's not as easy to defend. That Mega Minion is gonna take care as well there. And the good positive thing on his end is how much Fireball bait he does have. But look at up top, Andrew. Valk, Delivery, Tesla is quite the defenses.
Yeah, there's a lot of responses there. It should be easy for him to deal with the cards that we saw on the board so far. Now, of course, that Mega Knight does throw a little bit of a wrench in the system, because now you have to figure out when and where to use the Valkyrie to tank for the Mega Knight, and when and where to use that Delivery, because you never want to get overrun when you don't have a strong tank in hand and those E-barbs come down from your opponent.
Yeah, and I think the fast cycle is what's going to save him here. He was able to get 2 Teslas down, and he already has Tesla in hand again. So this is definitely the saving grace for him, if I'd like to say it that way. And the fact that he does have the Skellies is another great defense. It doesn't look like it, but when you get Hoggies onto your tower and you delivery Skellies, he doesn't have a snowball, right? So he cannot just take care of those 1 elixir troops. And between the Royal Delivery and the Skellies, he can actually take care of those Hoggies very, very well.
Yeah, one of the most fascinating things in the game for me still is the amount of damage that the Royal Delivery does on its drop. Its drop damage is phenomenal. I don't think that it's too powerful. I just think it's excellent, and I think it's one of the coolest things in the game still. And Royal Delivery is still one of my favorite cards.
Yeah, I think it's actually in a perfect state right now. I remember, I don't know if you remember when it used to do pushback as well. That was absolutely broken. But right now, I think we're in a good state. I like the card. I think it's a great mechanic. I love the idea of it. And they were very, very smart, the Clash team, in understanding that, look, this cannot do pushback and do that damage and then spawn a troop. It's just way too much. But it's in a great state right now.
The defenses during that time were just nuts. It was like, all right, cool. We'll just Ice Wizard everything together. We'll pull a NATO in there, and we'll drop that delivery on top, and your Golem's dead.
Yeah, and here you go. You want to do a lumber loot push? No problem. I'm gonna send this back to oblivion with a delivery, and then defend your lumberjack as well.
Yeah, that was rough. Speaking of rough, we were talking about how great Mateo was doing with his fireballs earlier. Now missing fireballs all over the board. He misses the Mother Witch there. Does get damage on the tower, but isn't going to be enough. That is gonna do it. Lucas is our champion for today. Our Group A champion. He's going to be moving on. We won't actually be able to see Lucas play now for another few weeks because he did so great here today. And of course, we do have to deal with our elimination bracket. We'll see a lot more of Mateja moving forward, as he is going to be ending up in second place, essentially. And our second and third place players, we will see again. But now that we know the winner, it is time to figure out who will be eliminated as we look at the stats here from game number 4 between Mateja and Lucas. Eric, what do you think was kind of the key to victory here for Lucas after looking back at that whole entire set? What did he just do a little bit better than his opponent?
I think it was those little mistakes, right? Clash is a game of taking advantage of your opponent's mistakes, and on the other end, when you're playing at this level, you cannot make any of them. We saw in this match alone, in this full set, we saw 3 missed fireballs. He missed one on the Dark Goblin. He missed one on the tower for the graveyard as well. And then another one onto the Mother Witch. That just cannot happen. And every time he missed one, on the other end, Lucas put on the pressure and took advantage of it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a really, really brilliant call, and that actually even can allude back to the previous set that we saw. When we saw Ayel Shihi make some great plays, but then when his opponent made mistakes, he didn't capitalize on them the way that you would maybe expect some of the best in the world to do. And obviously, all of us have some learning to, some learning room and space to grow. And maybe that's something that he will learn here hopping into this next set against Blaz. As you can see right there, Mateja will be facing off against whoever wins that set. Not today, of course, as this is going to be our last matchup of the day to close out Group A. Lucas, GSM, cruising on through. He picks up 6 wins today with only 2 losses, Eric.
Definitely a great day. Definitely what you want to see out of yourself, right? When you never really know what to expect. You know you worked hard for it, but when you go into a competition like this, 2 players that you don't know as well, and then someone that you know is at the top of the game right now, you really want to do great. But when you leave here and you leave 6-2, securing a spot in the finals, this is a great way to not only start this tournament, but to start the week. It's Monday morning and you're feeling great.
Yeah, man. That's actually a really, really good point that you make, right? Great Clash, about to have a great rest of the day, and you're also putting your name on the board for a lot of other people out there. Lucas GSM is a guy that you may have heard of, you may have seen in the past, but now, once again, you see him here playing very, very well against some great names in the game. Now I want to focus on Ayel Shihi and Blaz, because what we saw out of them in their first couple sets was a lot of what I want to call rookie play. And the first thing here is, look at this. We don't even have 3 decks to populate our graphic, Eric, because he ran that top deck with the 0% win rate 3 times in his opening set.
I mean, I don't really have much to say. I think I've said it over and over again. If I'm Blaz and I'm getting ready for this set, I'm deleting Golem out of the game for myself. I'm deleting Clone out of the game for myself. And look, it's not a shot at Blaz. It's happened even in CRL, right? We saw back in the day, Team Queso tried Clone 17 different times and it never worked out. I don't know what it is about Clone, but it's like you really want it to work, and it's just you need to accept when it's not the time, and right now is not the time. The Lava deck, I wouldn't mind to see him play it again, just don't use it right off the start. He might expect that. You've already said in your video, look, Lava is my favorite. It's the only deck that you won a game with, so I expect Ayel Shihi to see that coming. And on the other side, Blast, come on, give me something a little more meta.
Yeah, and you know, that's actually a really great point that you make out there. Blaz talked about Lava Hound. Ayal Shihi talked about Graveyard. Both of those players respectively won their only one game of their set with their comfort decks. So this is what I want to see now that we're in the elimination side of this bracket. Slow things down. Play decks that you enjoy more. Spice things up a little bit. Take the load off of your back. Take the pressure out of there. Take a big, deep breath. Recognize, look, I'm not going to come out on top here at the end of the Group A, but maybe I can be in second or third place after a rough start. Play the game that you know best and slow things down. Eric, what would you tell your players after coming off of a brutal loss and then being like, all right, man, I know you just got destroyed in 2v2, but you're first up in King of the Hill?
Well, first off, I just want to say that it's good to know that if I ever go back to coaching and I'm feeling sick for a day, after your little speech right there, I'm confident in saying you could sub in for me for a day. Not bad at all. So, I mean, it's basically just don't lose your tower in the first 5 seconds. Could be a great start to this speech. And this is actually very funny because Blast had this same exact interaction with Lucas. If you remember, Night Witch locking on to the lava and then taking tower with, it was an Infernal Dragon back then, but it's basically the same exact thing we saw. And look, if I was coaching, at least I know I would have had a great matchup because it's exactly what I said. I'd expect to see Blast go to this deck. It's the only one that he's actually won with, and he actually did.
Yeah, it's real tough there, man, because, you know, it was basically just like, all right, I'm going to read this as like the easiest read possible, and I'm going to just counter your deck in the opening 20 seconds, and I'm going to take your tower. What did he do? He opens up with a Lava Hound. So what does his opponent do? All right, I'm going to go E-Barbs plus Log at the bridge, because last time you ran Skarmy. Skarmy comes down, boom, taken off the board. E-Barbs take the tower with the help of the Fire Spirits there. Now, we are at a 2-tower game, but it's against Royal Giant, and he's already down 1,400.
Yeah, and if he actually Skarmies here, oh, what a great, no, that was great. And now I actually don't like that log. I think you could have just saved the elixir and you would have won. You would have taken that tower anyway because it was going to spawn 30 different little hogs from the witch, and on defense you would have had an extra 2 elixir to defend with. But either way, he's in a very good position. There is nothing behind this lava. He actually decides to RG, and I think I mean, it's not the right play when we're talking about right play, wrong play, but I don't think it matters at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a pretty good way to put it. I mean, really, really rough here for Blaz, and, you know, it might sound that we're picking on him up here in the booth, but I think what you have to recognize if you want to look at this from a strictly objective Clash Royale standpoint was his opponent gamed him on the deck that he was going to run. He gamed him on the way that he was going to defend his first push, and he gamed him once again with the predictive Heal Spirit to get on top of what would have either been a Skarmy or even better, Fire Spirits. So it just feels like we're almost in 2 different classes of the game right now. Ayal Shihi looked really immaculate there in that game.
Yeah, and that goes to show you that Clash Royale is not only skill, right? This is a deck, this is a game of strategy as well. It's just as important to understand decks, to understand when to play stuff, to play those mind games as it is your actual gameplay and your actual skill. Because if you can correctly predict what your opponent is going to play, set yourself up with a good matchup, that leaves less room to actually having to outplay him. You can just play at an average level and still have a great advantage in the game.
Yeah, 100%, man. And that's actually a really good point that you make. You don't have to go swinging for the fences every single time that you make a play. You just got to play good, consistent Clash Royale. And you know, again, you talk about younger players trying to really reach for things that aren't there. We saw a lot of that out of Blaz, even when it comes from deck selection. So now that we've said all that we have to say, here we are into this game, and it's the same thing, man. Lava Hound in the back, right-hand side. Opponent goes hyper aggro on the left. Fire Spirits are there. And at this point, it just almost feels like, you know, Blaz has given up.
Yeah, I mean, I like you said, I don't want to seem like I'm picking on him, but at this point, it's just like, I don't know what to say, man. You've played 2 decks in, what, a total of 6 matches? And one of the decks was clone and you went 0-3, and now you're and it's the same. It's not only that you're playing the same deck, it's that you're playing it the same way every time, right? And that actually influences a lot. When you're showing lava first play, they already know what your lava deck has. They know it's the fire spirits, they know it's the Skarmy, so you can set up a defense accordingly. Make him guess a little bit. Don't use those fire spirits. Don't use that lava first play. You can even go loon with maybe the Skelly Dragons, or go defensively and have him guessing for at least 30-40 seconds in the game, and then set up when you want to go.
Yeah, and and I think another thing to add on to that, Eric, is just that Ayal Shihi, his opponent here, ran a Hog triple spell deck in his opening set. And you talk about ground responses here. Ayal Shihi doesn't even have to really think about it. He goes, all right, I'm going to put a Valkyrie down, a Hog behind, because that's going to catch either your Skarmy or your Fire Spirits. I'm going to throw a log in for good measure, because whatever you didn't drop, the log will take care of. And then I'm just going to get damage on your tower every single time. So now we see just nothing coming down from Blaz. Another tapping down here on the
he has nothing, right?
I mean, he's going...
Snowball defensively? Probably. Okay, this is actually not... Yeah, I'm not sure what he was thinking on the defense.
Wow!
He gave up this... Yeah, I can't believe he won it. I think that is completely just a mishap on Ayal Shihi. This is not something like, me and you were wrong on what we were talking about. It was just you had so much defense. What happened? You literally have Tesla, Snowball, archers, and he kind of just it was like just staring at his tower go down slowly. I'm not really sure what happened there.
Yeah, that was a throw and a half, man. That was a throw and a half. We've seen it before. We've seen it on every single stage. You and I have both done it ourselves. But you know what? This is great. This is good stuff for us for commentating up in the booth, because maybe now we see Blaz go, okay, I won with the deck I wanted to win with. Let's switch it up. Or maybe he just has a little bit more confidence. Yeah, let's go to Golem Clone. He'll never see it coming. Now...
No,
there it is!
I can't believe it. Hey man, at least I'm having fun. I can't believe that I said it more of a joke manner, but Golem Clone first play, he's actually going Golem. Let's see what happens. That's all I can say.
I gotta say, man, as much Blaz might not like us after this broadcast, I am a huge fan. I am a huge fan of this guy that is so unrelenting in what he wants to play that he's just gonna play whatever the hell he decides. And here we go, Golem Clone once again.
I mean, I'll give it to him, man. If you really want to prove to someone, look, I'm gonna win with this deck, this is the guy to do it. Blaz, hats off to you. You repeated the lava deck until you won with it. And I hope it works out for you this time. I don't like to see that lumberjack coming out there, and I think this is slowly going to be slipping away. We saw that the one time that this deck looked like it was going to work was when he golemed and had the lumberjack behind it. This is just, I think this is a game over already.
It is game over already. I mean, you see, this elixir just kind of being thrown away, thrown to the wayside. Now a naked graveyard can come in because he knows what his opponent's running. Yes, the Skarmy does come down. There's the snowball, and there's trouble because, I mean, Blaz has ran Skarmy in almost every single deck today.
I think, yeah, in both of his decks, he has Skarmy, and Ayoshi on this side was very smart, right? We saw a graveyard from Mateja, a graveyard deck that did not have any small spell that would get onto tower. On the other end, Ayoshi recognizes that it's better to go with the snowball to have something for the Skarmy. He was very smart with his deck choice, and all he has to do here is defend one more time. I'm not a fan of the naked graveyard just because you had such a big lead that if you started back up again another rotation, that's why I thought it was game over. But overall, it's one more defense. If he gets the lumberjack down, this could be a little bit dangerous. There's the clone, and now that's the trouble, right? The lumberjack clones, the lumberjack clone dies, and everything else is raged up.
Ewiz maybe coming down on the left-hand side. Yes, there it is, able to clean things up, but now another golem out. A little bit surprised that the naked fisherman cycled on the left-hand side. But now able to recover was Ayal Shihi, and hopefully back in the driver's seat for the man from Omen.
Yeah, you can't just golem on the bridge when your opponent has a goblin cage. That is too good of a defense. And it overall, what happens there is the golem is going to take so long to get rid of the goblin cage that it's not even a fact that it dies. It's that the counter push is going to be unstoppable, and that's what we're going to see here.
Yep, and now you see there the high lumberjack. That's a last-ditch effort. Still going to have enough health on this Mega Knight to leap towards the tower. Skarmy comes down. Now no defense for the skeletons on the back end because there's, just like you said, the snowball comes in, and that is going to do it. GG here in game number 3. Some very, very loose play, I'm going to say here in this set, Eric, that honestly, as they work their way through the group stage and onto the international finals, I think it's going to be really tough to kind of replicate what they're doing here and be successful down the road.
If either of them even want to get to that final, they still have to go through Mateja. And even though Mateja lost to Lucas, this is not enough to beat him. Not only like gameplay wise, deck wise, right? If you're Blaz and you end up moving on and you make this comeback, and you're gonna play against someone of that level, someone that does have, I'm not sure if he has a coach, but you have pro player friends that you talk to and you get a strategy down. You're gonna need to come with more surprises, especially if you want to end up taking that 30,000. This is not enough to beat the Igors, the Eternity, Hugo, right? This is you need to calm down. You need to reset mentally. That golem on the bridge, if that would have been behind the tower, you had elixir lead. You had the rotation where you wanted it. You forced out all the defenses. One more push, you had time. That's what we spoke about earlier. Remember when we said 500 on your tower to you may seem like nothing, but the best players in the game, they understand that 500 in the tower is more than enough to, go back, be calm, and make it happen for yourself.
Right. They look at that and they go, perfect. 500 HP? Great. You have to cycle 3 times back around to get spell damage on that tower, or you have to get to my tower, which I now know how to stop you 100%. Hog Rider out with the log. We see the lumberjack plus the bats, and I feel like I'm in the Twilight Zone here, Eric.
I genuinely can't believe it. I thought that I coached the person that most repeated decks in the history of competition, and I am wrong. I am wrong. This is the 5th time we're seeing Golem. He's 0-4 right now with it. He already doesn't have lumberjack in cycle, so please Blaz, be calm. You can win this matchup. This is a winnable matchup. It's not easy, but the good thing that you have here is that he has Valk. So if you can get that Valk down and it kills the clone lumberjack, it's going to be a very, very tough situation for him. You do have arrows for the archers, so it's not all that bad, but he needs to understand, wait till double elixir. If you need to take damage on your own tower, let them hit your tower.
Like right here. Exactly. This is a great spot to take damage. He sets up, he hits 10, gets the golem down in the back. It's in the same lane that he already has damage on his tower. So what? He has to either send the hog down the opposite lane, but it's single elixir right now. So what's he going to do? He's going to set up for defense, cycles Tesla first, now skeletons and log. Going to be able to get a second Tesla down already here after he puts down what would probably be a Valkyrie.
Yeah, and this is where you clone. I'm not sure why he didn't. You need to clone whenever you have a lumber. That you see, if you clone that, it's game over already. It's too late now. He already used the small spells. What you needed to do, it's still good. He took the tower, but for clone play, just for people watching that want to, get the most out of it, before he uses the log and before he uses the snowball, that's when you want it. This could have ended up being a 3-crown game over if he did it at the right time.
Yeah, I think that it's really important that you say what you're saying right there, Eric, because yes, it is a tower take, and yes, it was a good play by Blaz, and honestly, with kind of the hard time we've been giving him about maybe being a little bit too aggressive, it is a nice play for him to make there. Log comes in, Hog Rider going to get through, 1 hit in, second hit doesn't come down, but yes, I agree. If that clone comes down just at a little bit more opportune of a moment, it's a 3-crown game, and you are just cruising on to game number 4. As opposed to the situation that we're in right now.
And on the other side, good news is usually when Blast wins with the deck, he switches it. When he won with Lava, he switched it. Now he won with Golem. I'm hoping for a switch. I don't think you go to either of those two. You're playing your elimination game. Don't show him something that he's expecting. If he went Lava in that deck, it would have been a very, very big problem. The only time that we saw him actually win Blast with the lava was a mistake from Al Shihi on the defense, and this is where Blast should surprise. Go. I would love to see some Electro Giant. I'm very, very surprised we haven't seen it yet, and it matches up well against everything I've seen from Al Shihi.
I think that's a great call. That's exactly what I was saying at the top of the show, just out of like my own pure, just like, I want to see Electro Giant in competitive play, but I do really feel like, and he just doesn't want to do it. Now Blaz gonna go with a much faster cycling deck. We see Wall Breakers out first, but I would have loved to see him play maybe that version of Beatdown just because it's so strong. Here we go, E-Barbs plus Spear Goblins to meet the Hog.
Straight off, we see that he's not going to have an easy time getting those Wall Breakers onto tower, right? We know that this is triple spell. We know that this is Tesla, and there is Valk as well. But on the other end, I would like to see what structure Blaz is bringing to the table. That's going to make a very, very big difference. And it is a heavier deck, a heavier Wall Breakers deck. So he's not completely out of it. If this was one of those very fast cycle, I would be very worried for him just because of how easy it is to defend on the other side.
Yeah, I like that he's gone a little bit heavier here. Obviously, nothing that we've seen out of him so far. I don't know if I like that missed fireball, though, early on. He hits the archers, but not the tower. Sends in a Hog. Hog's going to get 2 hits on meeting that Hunter, but a lot of damage on both towers here for Al Shihi.
Yeah, he decided actually to go and hit the Tesla to get a little bit more of the recruits. I think overall it would have ended up being almost the same damage. He just decided instead of getting the damage from the fireball onto the tower, he got it from the recruits. I have personal preference, but I actually like what I'm seeing out of Blaz. That was a good push, and he's playing a lot more calm the past 2 games, and it's definitely made the difference.
Yes, it's exactly what I was just about to say. And I also really like the deck choice here. I like that it is, like you were saying, a bit of a heavier deck. You see Al Shihi saying, oops, there as he misses the tower with his snowball. But it is a bit of a heavier Wall Breakers deck, which I think is good because, as you were just saying, Eric, it's going to make him slow down, to continue to slow down, as you see on the left-hand side of the board. It really has been back and forth. Now, that second game that Blaz picked up really was on the mistake of Al Shihi, but still, a win is a win. The fourth game, though, felt like that was when we were starting to see a Blaz that was a little bit more in control of the decks he was bringing to competition.
Yeah, and that was a little bit of a rookie mistake there. Just, I don't know if you realized, but he ended up going Hunter because of the desperation that it wasn't going to defend perfectly on the other end with the Earthquake coming in onto the recruits. And it forced not only 4 elixir, but it still got a hit from the Hog. And then the Hunter wasn't behind the recruits, so it just ruined the whole push for him. And I think that was a little bit of that desperation. I don't want to lose. Let me put a Hunter down. And he needs to stay calm in those moments.
Yeah, I mean, because one of the biggest things that you'll see pros do is find those moments of sequencing where they go, okay, I really just need to take damage here so I can get a push together. Because if I keep doing the same thing, 5 minutes is going to go by and I'm never going to be able to do the thing that I wanted once.
Exactly. And that's a good fireball. I like the setup here. I would have liked to see him go Wall Breakers on the same side here just to create a little more pressure on the right and then free up the left. But this is actually very, very well played, and look how much damage he's getting there. He does have minor, so that could have been a little bit of a misplay with the elite barbs. I'm not sure why he did that, because now he has Hog to go on, but no defense. No defense coming out.
No defense. Minor hit in. Log in. Blaz is gonna do it. Blaz eliminates Al Shihi with the quick swerve to the left-hand lane. I mean, I was in the same boat with you. Maybe the E-Barbs are a little too aggressive, but it pays off.
I was just waiting for I'm staring at the bottom. I'm like, come on, archers. You need the archers before you get the log. Yeah, the log is not the DPS. You need the archers and then you log. He went log first and then just took too long on the archers. I was staring there, you know, like, and it's obviously it's a lot easier for me and you to say than when you're playing for 30,000 and there's an elimination game on the line. You kind of mentally block a little bit. But look, if you would have told me after this series started and it was 2-1 Al Shihi and he was playing Golem Clone again, that we were actually going to end up seeing Blast bring this back, I would have said probably not. But look, I'm happy that he went different. I'm happy the recruits, the Wall Breakers. Blast, you can do it. You just proved to yourself you don't need the Golem, you don't need the lava. This is what I want to see if you're going to end up moving forward.
Yeah, and you know what? My hat goes off to Blaz. You know, call us out on Twitter. You can meme us if you want, because you know what, man? You earned your wins today. We gave you a really hard time early on, but that is where it all started to turn around for Blaz. Right there, that last replay we saw him capitalize on horrible defenses from Ayal Shihi in that game, which should have totally been his here in game number 2. And he ends up taking this 3 crown. Here we go. It's all falling apart here. Somehow Ayal Shihi's in the lead for most of this game. 3 crown comes in, and then we go back to the Golem clone. It doesn't end up working out, but here we are. Somehow, Eric, we are at a set where Blaz ends up on top.
Yeah, and that last Golem clone deck that he played, that last match, was the first time we saw him not Golem until double elixir. He finally understood, you know what, the 2 times that this has gone my way almost is when I'm getting a full push. He was patient and it worked out.
Yeah, so here we are, guys. Final standings of the day. Lucas 3-1. He is the winner of Group A. Mateja will go on to face Blaz on our next appearance of Group A. Ayal Shihi is eliminated here from Gamestars Season 1. Adios, buddy. Nice try out there today, but just going to have to clean up those defenses a little bit. It's always tough when you find yourself in the lead and then you find yourself making one small mistake defensively and your opponent comes right back into it. So that's a lot out of us, but now we want to hear from Lucas, the guy who you guys saw at the very top of the show talking about wanting to prove stuff for himself, for his country, and of course all of his fans out there. And he did a really good job. Lucas, congratulations, man. How you feeling?
Thank you. I'm feeling great. It's always good when deck choices and pays off.
So I think we're probably just going to go back and forth here. I'm going to ask you a question. Eric will ask you a question. We won't take up too much of your time, man, but I do want to ask you, you know, you started off a little bit slow today. Was it just nerves? Because it felt like after that first game kind of got out of the way, you were just on fire for the rest of your games.
The first game? I won the first game, right?
Or the first set, sorry, not the first game. Like the first matchup that you had. You know, you only dropped 1 game in that, but then you've pretty much been on fire for the rest of the day is basically what I was saying.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like just warming up, probably that, you know. The first few games maybe a little more rusty, but then when you get the end of it, you know, I feel like that's it.
And I want to ask you on the other side. We didn't see that many meta decks played today, and I was kind of surprised not to see any E-Giant. Did you do any analysis? I'm curious. Did you expect those Golem clones coming in and all those type of decks from your opponents today?
Like, we had to submit decks like 2 days ago or 3, so that's why Blaze repeated the Golem clone so much, because we could only play 3 decks.
Okay.
So it was kind of like right after the E-Barb's nerf, so we kind of didn't really have an idea how the meta was. So, but yeah, I was expecting Golem clone because I saw he was playing a lot. Yeah.
All right, so you're
and was that
not
a big
too worried
go ahead, Eric?
Golem clone, right? No, just I mean, Golem clone is not something that we're accustomed to seeing, and if when you saw it, were you worried at all that your decks weren't matching up well against his, or you were kind of calm?
No, I was calm. Like, all of my decks were kind of like thinking of Golem clone already. So like every time I saw like bad skeleton army, I was like, okay, he's playing Golem clone now. Okay, I was like,
well, yeah, definitely. I mean, you got a lot of value out of the Mother Witch, and you're one of the only competitors that really overutilized the Mother Witch in today's matches. How do you feel about that card in general? You got a lot of value out of that Mother Witch.
Yeah, it's a great card. I really like it. It fits really well like MK, you know, more beatdown decks. The other players were kind of more like Cycle, except Blaze, so that's why maybe they didn't play it as much. But I mean, I love the card. You know, it's really good. Even if they just fireball, you just need to like put it in like killing 1 skeleton. It's already a piggy like in 4/4/4. So I mean, it's a really good card.
Yeah,
absolutely. And I mean, congratulations to you. I'm happy to see you back as well in the competition. I've known that you've been competing for a very, very long time. So, I mean, moving on to finals, is there anyone you want to play against a lot?
I mean, obviously I want to avoid the best players, but like if like in the best scenario, I would like to win against Igor maybe in the final. That would be great.
Yeah, I mean,
definitely.
I think it was maybe you in the pregame that was talking about how you thought this was one of the hardest groups to be in, and obviously it was some really great competition there. How did you feel about that head-to-head set between you and Mateja? It felt like, you know, in the opening of that set, it was going to be very, very back and forth, and then you kind of just took control of the set. What do you think it was that kind of separated you in those games?
I was really confident. I wasn't that much confident when we started because after I saw his decks, I was like, I didn't really like it, the matchups. Like my log bait only won against his graveyard, so I lost the first one, but then I won against the graveyard easily. Like the match didn't really. I think he had advantage in the last two, honestly, but they were really close. And yeah, I think that's it.
Awesome, man. Well, hey, congratulations to you. You gave us some great matches today, and we'll be calling a lot more of your matches here in the future as you are going on to the finals. So good luck to you, brother. Congratulations, and thank you so much for taking time to talk to us today.
Hey, thank you very much.
All right, guys. That is our champion of Group A, and that's it for us today here for the Gamestars League. Eric, I mean, a lot of great stuff, a lot of surprises. Is there anything that you want to highlight or talk about really quickly before we end today, or maybe something you want to give some advice to the players that are coming out tomorrow?
I think first off, I'm just super happy with the level overall that we saw. We saw matches that, you know what, at the end of the day, yeah, we spoke about this deck, the other, but I'm happy to see new decks. It's just surprising to me, and we don't get to see that as much in CRL. So having a competition like this where we're going to see a whole different bunch of play styles is very exciting. And to players for tomorrow, make sure to play your comfort. And you know, we saw that Lucas and Mateja did that, and it worked out very well for him.
Gamestars inaugural season day one is coming to an end, guys. $30,000. 32 of the best players in the world now actually down to 31 as we just said goodbye to IL Sheehy. We'll be back tomorrow, same time, same place. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, turn on those notifications so you know when we go live. That's 9 a.m. here on the West Coast, and of course in CEST, it's going to be 6 p.m. for you guys. CEST, 6 p.m. We'll be back tomorrow. For Eric Benamou, I'm Andrew Guy. Guys, keep on clashing. We'll see you tomorrow morning.